All right, everyone, welcome to the Course of Action podcast with me, Jeff Clark. This is a show that dives into the courses of action of incredible people that are always looking forward and never behind. My guest today is Carl-Shawn Watkins, business coach, man of faith, vulnerability expert, and aspiring civil rights attorney. He coaches vulnerability in business, empowering executives and other leaders to transform their vulnerability into their superpower and grow their mindset. He's a man of many specialties and a friend I hold dear. We both share a passion for leadership. It's my pleasure to introduce Carl-Shawn Watkins. All right, Carl-Shawn Watkins. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. How's
Good.
it going?
Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it. It's good for me and you to catch up. We haven't spoken in a while, but unique perspective of what's going on in the world, and I know you've been traveling a lot, so it's good to finally catch up.
Yeah, it is good, man. It's been busy for me. I got a few dates that I was able to keep toward this latter end of the 2021, and it's been good. Getting on planes and those kind of things again, going to different places, visiting different people, some friends, some relatives, but business people whom I've been doing a lot of things with over Zooms and LinkedIn, and so it was a great thing to kind of like see some of those people and really get some interaction going on. So
that's awesome. Yeah, business is good, and I'm glad it's working out for you. I'm glad you're getting to travel. It's nice to get out and see people face to face. Even though this works well, it can work well and still get the point across very efficiently. But it's always good to jump into an office and see people directly. You can get a different level of kind of the environment and communication that way. So. Yeah, very awesome. I'm glad you're traveling, man. So tell me, what are you up to? Man. Why are you traveling?
Well, right now, I'm in the midst of doing a couple of things. I got a course that's dropping November 1st is my deadline that I'm looking at. I've been working on it, been piecing it together. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of things going on, you know, as well as I do. You have the work, trying to push the business, trying to do all kind of different things. You kind of like get lost sometime in different things that you really want to focus on. So I ran into a few people that told me that now's the time for the course, especially with the traction that I've gotten with vulnerability and people actually opening up on this side of the pandemic. They thought it was a great thing to do. So November 1st, I'm trying to kick that out, the vulnerability toolkit. So definitely it's going to be something you're going to be looking at. And I'm also getting ready to join in with you, my friend, Arthur. I'm getting ready to do a book well. A friend of mine, ran into him. Hadn't seen him in about 20 years. And he was like, man, what are you up to? It was a great thing. The pandemic has kept people apart, but it's also brought you together, I guess, with the avenue of Zooms and you're doing more online. And
you don't have an excuse anymore.
So, right. So people's like, yo, man, I've been seeing you on LinkedIn. He was like, I've been seeing you on LinkedIn, man. I ain't seen you in about 20 years, man. What you up to? So that turned into like a 4-hour conversation. So come to find out, he's into pushing books and trying to get people to write their little memoirs. I said, man, it's kind of early for me to be doing that. I haven't done much. I got a lot more to do on that avenue. But he was like, no, just get you in the mindset of that. So we had a long 2-hour Zoom, man, and we talked, and he kind of took some of my stuff. I sent him some of my notebooks and those kind of things where he wanted to read over stuff. So I think we're going to be doing a book. I don't know, how that process goes. You know it greater than I do, but we're going to enter into that venture. And he's going to be doing the ghostwriting kind of thing with me and kind of showing me how that goes. Because I told him I just write. So I don't have no format. I don't have no rhyme or reason. I don't, I say sometimes I write so much I even go past the punctuations. But I say, you know what you're doing. So, you feel he knows my life and he knows a lot of things that I've been through.
Yeah, I went through I went through so many drafts of my book before I finally was like, okay, this has to make sense to someone other than myself, So just getting all my notes down and then starting to write it into more of a larger scale professional paper, just so it's somewhat attractive before it goes even to a publisher, let alone an editor who can make sense of it. So yeah, it's a long process, but if you're patient and understanding and focused on getting the word right, you're going to have a great book. I no doubt about it. And using a ghostwriter, a lot of people do that because they have it all up here, but they don't know how to get it out here. So And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do
Yeah.
it. I think I respect anyone who's willing to give that a shot instead of saying,
Yeah, because
yeah, I don't know how to write, so I'm not even going to bother. Well, you're keeping a lot of information from the world. You have a lot to offer, my friend, so I'm glad you're going with the ghostwriter.
I told him, I said, he was like, well, how's your phone doing? And I sent him a couple of notebooks, and he was like, man, you got stuff. He was like, you got so many stories within these notes because I write in patterns. So it's familiar to me, and I know how things go, and I know. But he's like, you got stuff, man. He was like, I see why you would need it. And he said, I've been doing this, and I know what to help. I know what to pull out. I know what to ask you to, so we can close in stuff, so we can make chapters instead of run-ons and those kind of things. You know, if you're not a writer and you're not with that, man, I am game. That's part of my vulnerability, top and key. If I do not know it, I can try to get with someone who does, or if it's something that maybe I can learn and do, get an understanding of
Right.
how it works. And these are the things that continues your growth and then help you be effective. And we're not just that in business,
Right.
but in life.
Yeah. So speaking of vulnerability, you are doing a lot of business coaching and business consulting with kind of a focus on vulnerability, which I think is very, very unique.
Mm-hmm.
But go into a little bit about kind of what you do and how you offer that.
Yes, well, on the business side of it, on my personal side, and what I do with candidates, I got a 3-month and I have a 6-month coaching program, and I call it a coaching program. And I also have that same kind of development for consulting as well, because I do it on both levels. I get individuals and I work in groups as well. I often find in what's been, but I never want to close my knowledge off or what I have to offer to anyone. But what I'm finding is most effective in the vulnerability phase is that through workshops, through trainings, through groups, it's more effective. And I'm finding it out because when people see that others are opening up in front of others, it makes my job that much easier. Because a lot of times we don't even open up individually to even like counselors or, medically
Well, there's
professionals.
those,
We don't
those
open up. We give
stigmas
them
behind
some.
it, and people go,
Yeah, we give
My
them
wife's the
some,
same way.
but
She
we
doesn't
don't.
wear her white coat when she's in the emergency room, walking in and out of patient rooms, because people see that white coat and they go, "Oh, they're a doctor. I don't want to tell them too much." They get scared, so she doesn't wear it, and then they open up and tell her all kinds of things,
Open
sometimes
up.
too much. But to your point, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's really and I carry you through the program. I carry you through a process. The toolkit, the course is going to cover. I normally do in coaching and consulting. I got an 8-module process that I pretty much go through, and I split that in half for the course because I wanted to do the top 4 part of that and give that to individuals where they can grab that and continue on their processes because vulnerability is ever evolving. It's individual, and your growth comes by you. So it's work that you have to put in. It's not like I got this down for myself and I'm just going to gift it to Jeff Clark. No, your vulnerability is different than mine. And I think my narrative, which I want to change, I know I have to talk about it with everyone that I talk to because it's important to me. I want people to understand that what the dictionary says about vulnerability does not have to be defined by you. And of course, is it harmful? Do it expose you? Those are absolute truths. But they are not what define someone who uses their vulnerability exclusively to their own situations. And that's the narrative that I'm trying to change in people's minds. So that's what I do on the individual level. And that's how I bring it in the workplace. And a lot of that is going with the culture. Because as you know, if you've been in corporate and
Yep.
worked in corporate, the culture, and we've been in both military culture and
Yep.
corporate culture. So we've kind of had to find a ground that we couldn't be too rigid and we couldn't be too passive. And this is where I've kind of picked up with this toolkit to understand that it's enough here to get you moving forward, get you going forward, have power, empowerment in yourself, strengthen yourself, make plans and calendar yourself based upon what you do. But it's also soft enough where people will respect you. People have an understanding of who you are. They know you care about them and moving forward. So, yeah, that's just some of the stuff, man, that I delve into. But it is very good, and it's enriching and empowering, not only to others, but to me as
Well, I'm
well.
glad you brought that up because, you were in the Army, I was in the Air Force. So we both have a military background. And in the military, it tends to be a little more rigid, like you said. A lot more disciplined, a lot more rigid, a lot more, do this, go here. And that doesn't necessarily work in corporate America as well. It can, but there has to be a level of understanding and kind of some flexibility with it. And vulnerability tends to be one of those things when we hear it, especially people with a military background. The vulnerability, we don't want to be vulnerable ever. That's a military wartime, mindset. So changing that, whether you're military and you have that background or you're not, vulnerability tends to be kind of one of those, I don't want to say a naughty word, but a word that people go, I'm not vulnerable. It's almost a very defensive thing to say when you say it. So getting people to understand, actually vulnerability is a huge part of leadership. Whether you're an executive, CEO, a corporate owner, person on the board, all the way down to the janitor. Being vulnerable means opening up yourself to all kinds of different things. And I really like, and I've watched a lot of your stuff, that you've been focusing in on vulnerability, because I think it is something that vulnerability has kind of helped divide us as a country a little bit, because we put up a wall, we put up a front, and you can discuss whatever topic about it you want to, but the bottom line is we see vulnerability as a ugly thing instead of as an opportunity to grow. And I really like that you're focusing in on that with your business coaching consulting. So people can come see you for one-on-one consulting and coaching, as well as in bigger groups.
I do have one-on-ones. Absolutely. I do have one-on-ones that I do, and I actually thrive on that, because I like getting into people and opening them up. And this is something that I really learned, and I really kind of like took notice in when I did workshops and stuff in leadership and those kind of things. I think a part of me was always opening to, let's see how this goes, or let's create this in people, or let's bring that out from people. And a lot of time leadership modules and workshops and training, they're all about the rah-rah. I think that's why so many people have gotten on the bandwagon of, okay, let's see if I can excite a stage. Or let's see if I can get a few, cliches, words and phrases, and get people running behind the hype. But why I chose vulnerability was the aspect of going internal, to let you be your own cheerleader. Because once you figure out those fears, because I can fill a room, I can fill an auditorium, I can fill a conference, I can sell tickets, I can give you a great speech, I can point out things that in leadership a lot of leaders know, and I can get you with the rah-rah. Okay, so where does it go after you?
Right, once the microphone's turned off,
Right, once the lights is out and the janitors are cleaning up the auditorium, and you're back to your office, what are you taking from that? Nothing, because I haven't changed you. I'm just giving you a lot of pep talk. And this is sort of the thing where the coaching comes in at, because you have to pull that aspect about individuals. And that's why I love the one-on-ones. The group trainings, I harvest them. I try to continue those and stay back in touch with those. They're reoccurring, and try to see, okay, what have we gone through? What have we learned? I get follow-ups on those. But the individual thing, I get to see that growth. And that's the transformation that really brings joy to why I focus on vulnerability. And I went in that internal. For a lot of times I didn't deal with my own vulnerabilities. I didn't deal with, showing who I was, showing up for who I am. And I let a lot of people guide who Carl-Shawn Watkins was. I let them guide it whether with their thoughts. I could let them guide it with what they kept me away from, what I kept them out of. And when we come to realize that we need each other, you just have to find that other. Because everybody doesn't have your good thing. That's why I want to change the narrative. When you think about being vulnerable, it is a tough place to be in, but it's advantageous more so than it's harmful. And this is why I want everybody to get out of it. Like you said, I don't want people to think of vulnerability as being a naughty word. Vulnerability is like a yellow light. You know what I mean? You don't go straight through it because it's not green. But what you do is you look both ways, and the yellow goes through. Then you go through the intersection. I
love that.
Right? So that's what I want people to think of vulnerability.
Well, vulnerability, I think the pandemic really exposed how vulnerable as a society we are, because we reacted in so many different ways, from people lashing out about the government overreach and There's places that didn't have groceries and places that did. I mean, toilet paper was the hottest commodity there for a little while, just ridiculous.
Oh, God, man.
But I think it showed how vulnerable we are to kind of being privileged and having a good life. We have it good here in the United States. We really do. We have our issues, sure, of course we do. But we have it good. I mean, we didn't have the worst pandemic. Like, there was other countries that were having a much tougher time than us.
India at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of people dying in India and in China as well over there. And
Italy was a problem.
There was a lot of deaths. Italy as well. I was trying to think of other countries and nations.
We have it good, and I think vulnerability was really exposed because a lot of people got sent home from work. A lot of companies were not ready to remote work and to take care of their employees. Some companies did a really, really good job of navigating it and sending people home and remote working and taking care of the employees and laying off nobody or just a handful of people. But some companies didn't handle it well. So vulnerability from a corporate or government scale all the way down to the individual scale. I'm glad to see you're doing vulnerability because we really kind of got sucker punched by the pandemic, and it really turned people into entrepreneurs that normally wouldn't. But it also gave people the bravery to say, I'm going to start that next endeavor. It gave me the bravery to do it because I said, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to do some videos. I'm going to share my thoughts on leadership and other things. And then I'm going to develop a podcast, which, I'm currently recording for. So it did a lot of different things. But I think from a knowledge standpoint, vulnerability is a big thing. And I'm glad you're leading the way on that.
Thanks, man. It's been, and oftentimes people ask me those questions and they say, well, how did you even really go that route? I didn't go that route because of the pandemic. The pandemic enhanced, actually not enhanced, the pandemic gave me an avenue that was clear. Because for so long I had felt like that ever since that day on the tank in 1986 when I was sitting out at Wild Flicking there with that gun trying to end it all, had just been so filled up with depression and being an alcoholic and just didn't know how to handle my life. That point right there, I was at my vulnerability, I call it my vulnerability dungeon. And I was there and I got to grapple with a lot of things that Carl never faced. I mean, even I started just going through my life from a child and different places of where I had opportunity to show who I was, and I let someone else dictate that, and things that I held that I never let go of that fostered so much inside of me. And what we don't do, like we got these business coaches, we got these gurus, we got all of these people that do that. I've looked over and said, I don't hear a lot of people talking about development, personal development. I don't hear a lot of people talking about, because to be successful in all these other avenues, it has to begin with you. And if you're still dealing and carrying a lot of things, you're not going to be the full potential of what you're dreaming of. And even with the lawyer, I played with that ever since I was a 6-year-old watching Perry Mason. That's what I wanted. But you know what I got? I got high school teachers telling me that, yo, you're funny, you're charismatic, you like to, why don't you go into acting? Why don't you be Eddie Murphy? And I played basketball and football, and I dabbled with some baseball. You're athletic. Why don't you try to focus on that? And these kind of things, and you're intelligent, so why you try theater? And I was getting all of these avenues that I was listening to other people. So in the beginning of my career, and I was kind of like all over the park. I didn't know. Only thing that stayed with me is that I wanted to be a lawyer. Everything else was kind of like, okay, that was the flavor of the month. Okay, I did some drama. I played King, Martin Luther King in our play, the Selma, Alabama scene. We had a play about that. I played him. I did a little bit of theater. I did some comedy.
No, that I didn't know.
I never thought myself.
I didn't know that you've done theater and comedy. So stand up? You've done stand up.
I've done stand up, man. I've done stand up.
Please tell me there's videos of that somewhere.
No, thank the Lord. There's not, man. Thank the Lord. Look, I did some comedy, man. We had comedy shows in Chicago. No, not the famed comedy theater, what everybody talks about. But we had some comedy shows in Chicago where we had, they had grand prizes, 500,000 bucks, things of that nature. And I won a couple, and I did it a lot. But my comedy, to me, was always not funny.
Mm.
And when I say that, because I would see stuff and I just make a comment about it. So I didn't think that was career comedy. You know how Eddie Murphy, like you could write Kevin Hart, these guys write this, Chris Rock. We look at all these comedians, man, even George Carlin, that I grew up listening to, these comedians back in the day, and you think about comedy. But to me, I did a lot of comedy. It was at school, kids. I could rag on you in a heartbeat and talk about you, your mom, and all that. And of course, kids back then, oh man, so that to me that was funny, but I didn't think it was career funny. And I got pushed into a couple of things, and I ended up, majority of it was never written. It was always, my comedy was always on top of my head, what I saw in the audience, different things like that. So I always thought that couldn't be nothing fulfilling, because I would have to constantly be on the creative tip with that.
Yeah,
my mind
eventually it's going to become work to stay consistent. And you've got to be bold. Like Dave Chappelle's under a lot of heat right now because he pushes the boundary. He takes topics and he makes jokes about them and he turns them into comedy, which I think comedy is the one place where I don't say that you're not you are responsible for the things that you say. However, I think comedy is that one place where we can all get together and say, he made fun of you, but then he also made fun of me, and then he made fun of them. And you don't necessarily have free reign, but you have a lot more freedom to latitude. Yeah, latitude. So, but you have to write those things. Like those guys all have really, really good content, and eventually, something you love becomes work. And then how dedicated are you to it? So, I'm glad you've stuck with what you're doing, and now you're not just doing the business coaching and consulting. You're still going to school to be an attorney, specifically in civil rights, which is something you've had for a long time, as you said, all the way from back in the 80s. But briefly tell me why specifically civil rights?
Well, a lot of that happened, and of course, I mean, the obvious, what people always say, the African American male, had to be birthed out of things that were done to you, and in all actuality, it wasn't birthed from that. It was actually birthed from just seeing a lot of people not understanding their own rights. And that's really what that came from, and of course, the actions came with that. Yeah, I was a kid on the corner. I got pulled over a lot of times. Pockets got turned out. I mean, I'm not exempt from that happening to me. Actually, a couple of Christmases ago, it still happened to me. I'm a 54-year-old man. A couple of Christmases ago, I bought this house that I'm in now, and it's gated. And I did not remember the four-number keypad. And yes, I live in Jersey, so where I live at, it's about 98% white, and it's only a few percent black here. And the police came past the gate. They drove down the cul-de-sac one way, and they came up the other way. And I was coming home from work, and I think this more so happened with me being just stubborn, because I could have called my wife and asked her for the key punch. But it was also me trying to be like, nah, I'm not about to tell her that. I can figure this out. It was that man thing taking over, right? So I stood out there, at the gate, and I'm steady trying to put the numbers in. And I was like, I know it's 4 numbers, and it would not come to me for the life of me. And the police came by, and they shined the light on me. They kept driving. They didn't stop. And then they went down to the end of the cul-de-sac because it's closed where we are. And they came back and turned back around. And when they came back around, they shined the light on me. Everybody know the policemen like this on the side of the vehicle. And they shined the light on me standing there at the gate. Now, I just got home, Mike. I work at a law firm, so I got home. I'm in a suit, tie. I'm not looking like whatever stereotypes that we get, right? So I'm up there, and he's like, he didn't say, "Can I help you? You need help? You need assistance?" First thing out of his mouth was, "Are you lost?" Now, this is a police that's in my township that I pay my taxes to pay his job.
Are you lost?
Right? So I'm looking at all these equations, and this is the first thing you say to me. And I'm standing up here like, do I need help? Do I need to make a call? Is there someone I can call for you? Those are the things I think that someone would serve and protect on the side of vehicles will offer me, right? They said, "Are you lost?" And here I am, a 52-year-old man, pretty much established in what I'm doing, looking to do greater things. And I was like, I was really taken aback by that, and not so much to the anger point, but just to the point of like, oh my God, is this going to ever
Yeah.
change? Like, so when you think about civil rights, yeah, I got a lot of avenues that I can say, yeah, that was the particular thing that birthed that, but it didn't. I just wanted to be someone where someone could get education from based upon the rights that they
Right,
have.
because we all
And
have
I
we
even,
all have the same rights as written under the law. And I think a
right.
lot of people assume they know it or understand it, and I think it's really cool that you're wanting to go into civil rights as an attorney for that purpose, as opposed to, I think the cliche answer, and a lot of people will go to, is because of what they've seen on the media and the things that they've seen.
Yeah.
That 1% of things that they've seen that they have told you. Unfortunately, you have had interactions with that 1% side that labeled you, which is really
Yeah.
unfortunate and sad, and it's not something I would condone. And you never do pick your words right in the heat of the moment, it seems like. But
Yeah. You're right.
you really got to treat
Yeah.
people as an equal, regardless of what you foresee or what you see in person. I think it's cool that you want to be a civil rights attorney for that purpose, as opposed to
Yes.
the other way around. And the purpose is to help people know their rights so they can get out of these vulnerable situations and into the correct
See,
ones.
so there's
You like how I circled that back around?
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that you married that, man. That's basically it. And I tell people that because I also have family law up under that umbrella as well. That I do that for the purpose of understanding what we have. That I ran across a lot of people in this, and a lot of people that know. People say they fight for their rights, they understand their rights, they know their rights, this and that. A lot of people don't even really know their constitutional rights, such as amendments. Like you taking this stuff in school, you don't know the gravity of which they hold. You don't know how to articulate what's there for you and what's not there for you. What's really against the law? Because a lot of this stuff is just out there as open knowledge where you can get, but a lot of people feel like they already know it.
Yeah.
And in that comes a lot of ignorance because what you're doing and what you're portraying is not what this is meant for and not what our founding fathers envisioned it to be. So my purpose has always been for the education of, no, I'm not just a stout and stoop, just know it all, but the things that I know I want to share with other people. And I like to get people's mind thinking differently. I don't even like to use the term stereotypes because when that officer thought that and did that and said that to me, believe me, that wasn't the first. And sadly can say it probably won't be the last. But what I can take from that, not take away the interaction, what I can take from that is my reaction.
Right.
And this is where we are empowered. Because even when he went through all of that and the greatness that had been and how I looked and how I could have been angry and that could have turned the whole way and that could have been me not even speaking to you today. What that turned out to be is an opportunity for me to change someone's mind. And that's what I took that. So after that, after we talked and he said all of that, I didn't get angry. I said, you know what? I say, actually, I purchased this home in this development. And I love this community and I love how you guys doing. I went in on them with a campaign sleeves. And I said, I love what you guys doing and I really appreciate you looking over and protecting this. And I'm glad that I live here and you're going to be protecting me as well. So I kind of changed that to a moment of where he almost felt like apologizing. He didn't, but it changed in him even from that point on. But he was like, well, we know the security guy and we'll call him up for you, man. And what could have been a moment of, oh, this guy gets shot down outside a neighborhood or whatever. It turned into an officer actually giving me assistance and helping me get into my residence. And he changed his mind. I never seen this officer again, but I'm pretty sure what I put in and what took place that changed his thinking, or at least I believe so.
Well, and it's a
and
perfect example of how the actions on both sides of the equation decide the outcome. And not to say anything specific, like events of the last couple of years could have been differently if so-and-so would have reacted differently.
Right.
But
absolutely.
there is you turned a potential bad situation into something that did not have to be bad and didn't escalate for the wrong reasons. And you gave him a chance to walk away with a different mindset. He might have walked away, drove away from that thinking, you know what, I probably should have offered help, as opposed to questioning whether he was lost. Opened up his mind to different things, which I think is really, really important. And again, going back to your vulnerability, we're all vulnerable to our own actions, and we have to be responsible for those. But we also have to take a little bit of responsibility for other people, because we have to sit there and say, well, what you said to me was wrong, and I'm gonna be a pain right now because you said that. And it's a sign of maturity and growth, I think, when you can do that. And I didn't know that story. I'm glad you shared it. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's about, I share, I'm one of the ones, and this is what really my stickler to vulnerability, as far as saying and doing that as well, because a lot of people think vulnerability is piling on. Vulnerability is letting others know so much is just wrong with you or going on with you. And that's farthest from the truth. I've been under some great vulnerable leaders that I did not know a lot of things about. And that's kind of like how I pattern my life, where if you live in it, and I'm just a true believer of that, if you live in your values will show forth, and people will see you for who you are. I've never had, and I never thought that I had to be this kind of facade for people. Even when I was younger, there were things I did and took, people gave me advice on, and I kind of like followed until I got uncomfortable, and because it all came back to me. And I think if we all living that, it would be so much different. Am I asking for a utopia? Maybe. But I don't think that we're not within the realm of being smart individuals to do that. And I think what we do, we don't give ourselves enough credit, not ourselves. We don't give others enough credit to understand that if we conversate or communicate about things, all of us could have great solutions to things.
Well, we got to quit.
But a lot of
we listen to the media so much and let the media and the government tell us what to hear and think. And they don't tell you the truth of the matter. Like when I lived in Colorado, like for 3 houses down to the north of me, it was African-American family, African-American family, African-American family. Best neighbors I've ever had. They don't tell you that we're coexisting, we're living right next door to each other. They don't tell you that, there are 1% of every ethnic group has bad apples in it, and they're not actively trying to tell us grow and get along and all this. They're trying to tell us how to live our lives and to vote for me. And they're not having conversations like what me and you are having, where we're not talking about the differences between the two of us. We're talking about, vulnerability, coaching, what's going on today, how important is that to leadership? How do we get along? And these are the discussions that need to happen. And speaking of big leaders, we lost Colin Powell.
Yes. I heard that earlier today. It came up on, because I kind of, when I'm working, I normally have the news muted and up on the TV, man. And it's we lost a great soldier, man. And when I mean that, I mean, any military person that'll hear this understands soldier encompasses the individual. Just the mind state, what he is, what he provides, what he stands for. We're really all soldiers when we just dig down, in depth. Some of us, we've actually made the pledges and the oaths and went out and served. But when we look at individual people as a whole, man, we're all made up soldiers. We all have that innateness in us, and we all have that drive to lead and those things. They just have to be cultivated. They just have to be grown. They just have to be sometimes even shown. Because sometimes you can show someone what's inside of them, and that creates that leader. Then
I really liked him as a leader. I really did, and I got it. I read his book. His leadership book was outstanding. His 13 Rules of Leadership was amazing. I didn't necessarily agree with all of his politics once he took the uniform off and he was Secretary of State and all that. But I mean, I was a big fan of General Mattis, and I didn't necessarily agree with all his politics either when he took the uniform off and put the suit on. But I think they were both of them very bold leaders. Mattis is obviously still alive, but I think the military community and leaders across the world kind of took a sucker punch today.
It was a big loss.
We found that news out because
well respected.
First African American chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So, history, he made history and he broke some of those barriers a long time ago. So big loss to the military community. And I'm thinking about his family. Yeah, absolutely. But what a fantastic leader. So tell me, what is next? You have the courses going to be coming out here in November. People can sign up for that soon. I'm assuming they should.
Yes, I'm in the mix of getting the website, the landing page done. I'm getting that done, so that should be up, and we'll be getting that out within. I'm trying to have that out within this week. See how it was. I got to reach back out to my people since I've been out of town a few days. Actually, been out of town since last Tuesday, so almost a week. So I'm going to hook back up with them and see where we are with that and getting that done. But it's definitely, if it's not, the website's not up, I'm going to send out the information for people to join the wait list and that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely going to be doing that on that avenue. Finishing up this semester. School is rough. Going back and actually interacting back at school. The last few semesters I've been at home. So I'm integrating back and forth with that, actually sitting in classes and those kind of things. It's still kind of rough on that. But, hey, it is what it is. And I'm at the point in my life now that I have to do what I have to do because I want to make a difference. A lot of times we've thought about that and we've done things and we've sat on things. And just to go back to what you were saying about the pandemic and birthing so many entrepreneurs, and I think even to go further than that, it birthed people's desire to follow their heart. And whatever way that they wanted to do it, even with the course of how the pandemic changed LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, it did.
And I'm not saying for what LinkedIn was to be. I mean, not saying that they changed LinkedIn as a platform, but they changed LinkedIn really as a platform.
They
did. They changed the narrative. And this is the drive where I really got that, okay, you can do that with vulnerability using the process of what they allowed to happen. Someone sat back and they said, okay, we're going to get off of this snobby. We're all about the jobs. We're all about the CVs, the resumes, and this kind of thing. And we're just going to let people express themselves. We're going to open up and give people live shows. We're going to let them talk about things, mental health, awareness, those kind of things that I know. Because people now are working and kids are homeschooling and stuff right on the same long kitchen tables. I've been on a lot of Zooms where parents have held a toddler as we conducted business. I mean, so these things are part of what people are now. So what to exclude them will be actual business.
Well, LinkedIn has become very much a social platform as opposed to a career and job platform. I think there's you can write articles, you can write newsletters, you can do live shows. I think they've really embraced the social aspect of it, and there was an abundance of it during the pandemic, but now that we're kind of coming out the other side and things are normalizing, there's going to be some things that don't stay the same. But some of these fly-by-night coaches and consultants and even entrepreneurs, are they going to weather the storm and stick with it, or are they going to fly by the wayside?
That's the key.
I'm glad to hear you're doing a course. Obviously, you're writing a book, so that's coming in 2022. But are there any grander or bigger plans for Carl-Shawn Watkins in the new year?
Just continue with law school. That is my biggest goal right now. And I tell most people, when I started this venture, I did want to be an attorney, to be in the nuts and bolts. But after I got out, the pandemic really changed my focus. And when I say change my focus, that's law. Because, people go to these schools and get their master's and their doctorates and whatever to obtain that knowledge for a couple of reasons. Also, a lot of it is to get higher salaries, higher pay. That's Captain Obvious of it. But the second part of that is to also build your credibility and credentials. And with that, that's what I want to do because I want to bring that after I obtain that, and not even really at this point interested in passing the bar to actual practice. I want to get that law and that JD to come back to the law firms and corporations and organizations and show them how vulnerability is the key to them containing
Hmm.
clients, retaining clients, keeping clients, being a commitment to changing the bedside manner of. Because I've been the last few years, I've been doing the last what, three, this will be my third year of interning with judges and lawyers and law officers, and I've seen some attitudes, some dispositions, some
Yeah,
character
I'm sure you
wise.
have.
I can see why people don't want to fool with y'all. I know that you need them, but I mean, I've seen some attorneys, and I worked with a judge last semester, and this judge been on the bench in Jersey, man, about 30 years, and he liked me, and I was actually his first clerk and first African American clerk. Wow, see how far things have come, right? Here we are in 2021, and you're still saying I'm the first of this. And looking at him, and I learned so much from him. But the stoic thing that I really learned from him when I completed my internship with him, he told me, he said, "I'm gonna give you a couple of things to take with you as you go and as you go in school and learn." He said, he said, "I want to tell you first, I love how you bring what you bring to us." And he said, when I'm saying to us, I'm talking about the legal community. He said, because I had aspirations like you when I first came in to want to make these changes and be
Hmm.
different. And he said, somewhere along the line, I just fell into the tradition. And he said, I stopped trying. And we're talking about a 60 something, almost 70-year-old judge talking to me, more like fatherly,
Yeah.
and we're talking about two divides here: a generational white man who's been privileged, who's all of those things that
Hmm.
you want to say. And here we're talking about a black kid who's had to do extra, work harder, study harder. And here we are at this impasse where he's kind of like saying to me, yo, this is what I wanted to do, and you're following that path. And he was like, and he just gave me a lot of
And you find out
encouragement,
that
and he
you're
gave me his
not
number.
all that different in the first
Yes, and
place,
that
and it
was
was
really
just the
what the
stigmas and
point was.
stereotypes. It's like,
You pulled it right
I've
out.
met some people that same way. They were like, "Oh man, you're doing
Yeah,
well. You probably came from a great family. This and that." Nope, no. We were very broke for a very long time. My parents
yeah.
worked a lot of jobs. I wore out a lot of shoes and then duct tape around the toes. Like, I worked out on the
Absolutely.
farm for free. Like, I did a lot of stuff. Just because I'm doing well now, I earned it. I worked for it. So we all have those things in common, So it's cool that you had that moment, and I'm glad you're still going to school, man.
Yeah.
I'm still going to school for my doctorate, and
No, man,
it's
I
it's a
applaud you too, man.
challenge.
You got a lot on your plate, and yeah, especially as an older student, it has advantages and disadvantages. I find the advantages really work out for me as far as experience and what we've experienced because talking to professors and I'm graded a lot more, not so much of the workload, but like what I bring with the
Hmm.
workload, which is advantageous to me because it keeps me from not having to be so stressed
Hmm.
out with, reading this, doing that, which is a part of it. But a leniency has been there based upon my age and experience and some of the stories I bring. They've actually taken a couple of stories I shared and kind of like used that as
Mm.
coursework, for the students. Hey, we're going to says Carl shared this story with us about him in the '80s and his military and those kind of things. So we're doing that. We just had a project that they took my story that I shared about me wanting to commit suicide and the mental health part of that. We do mental health. This kind of thing comes into the law
Hmm.
field. How are attorneys dealing with that? Because there's a lot of attorneys that are holding a lot of things because they can't be
Yeah,
personal.
yeah.
They can't be personal. But what I'm trying to change is that you can be. You just have to be like I always say. It's in my page. It's on my website. It's strategically and intentionally, vulnerability will work for you.
Mm.
It definitely has. I've seen it myself. I've used it. I know it.
Well, man, I know you got to go. I know you're a busy guy, but I can't tell you how
Yes.
much I appreciate you coming on today. And
Oh, man, I appreciate this conversation as
I
well, my
wish you
brother.
the best, and keep it up. If you need to see somebody about vulnerability, Carl-Shawn Watkins is your man. Tell them where they can find you at.
Carl-ShawnWatkins.com, or you can always catch me in my second home, LinkedIn, and it's Carl S. Watkins 1. So check out my page, see what we're doing.
There you go. Hey, Carl, thanks so much for coming on today, man. I appreciate it. And
Thank you for having
we'll do
me.
this again and we'll catch up again.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right,
Talk
thanks,
to you
brother.
soon, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for listening today. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening on, and check out jeffclarkofficial.com for more. You can also see previews of new episodes and more on social media. Just search COA Pod USA, that's COAPod USA. Follow, like, and of course subscribe. And always remember, always forward, never behind.